This is Fred Beck from Fred Exciting. Today I'm joined by, once again, Tom Greater. Tom, we only caught up, I think it was just over a month ago. How have you been? What have you been up to then?
Very, very busy putting the 100th anniversary issue to bed. It's probably been the busiest month, Fred, I think I've had since my career started, simply because it was a big month in the boxing world. So you're trying to juggle all that, and putting an expanded, loaded issue to bed was a big test. So yeah, I've not stopped.
Are you going to have like the best fight from each year in that magazine, from best fight of the last 100 years, going to the best fight? How's it going to kind of work or lay out?
Well, the main there's a massive feature in it by a terrific writer and historian called Cliff Rold. And Cliff's put together all the fighters over the entire century span that have faced and won more beat more ring rated fighters than anyone else, and he's put them in order. So I won't waste the order that he collated, but it's like basically a great mixture of old school fighters and modern day fighters. So who fought the best most consistently throughout their entire career, and he's marked that over 100 years. Tons and tons, years of research has went into that by Cliff. So he did an absolutely amazing job. It's a brilliant feature to read for historians, but also people that are maybe fans that are new to boxing.
Yeah, I'm sure people will be able to use those statistics in their Twitter arguments when they're arguing over who the best fighter is. And will you have a special belt come out or anything like that?
A special belt? The belt's special enough, Fred. Come on now. no, there's no.
You know how you got like fighter of the year, coach of the year, the best fighter of the last 100 years.
There'll be listen, you know what? It's a great idea, Fred. I'll take it to Doug and see if we can get the budget to do something with it. But I don't foresee a new belt being created. I think that what makes Ring Magazine unique is that we don't change belts. We don't, create like fancy belts. You've got the Ring Magazine Championship belt in any division. You've got pound for pound, and you've got fighter of the year, and that's the way it would stay. Fighter of the century or fighter of the last 100 years. I'll see if there's any movement on it. If it gets created, Fred, it was your idea, mate. You can take full credit for it.
I can have a belt. You can give me a belt here in the background. That looked pretty nice.
Well, actually, here's one I made earlier. I brought it on just because it's 100 years. By the way, George Kambosos, one of these will be getting shipped to Australia for you. Congratulations, mate.
What about one getting shipped to England over here?
Say that again.
What about one belt getting shipped over here into England?
I'll see what I can do for you, Fred. You might need to give me a couple of bucks.
I'm happy with doing that. All right, Tom, let's talk about the fight. Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos. Just give me your overall thoughts, and then we'll go into the kind of nitty-gritty questions.
I thought it was an absolutely astonishing performance from George Kambosos Jr. Solid argument in my eyes that is the greatest win in Australian boxing history. I mean, you could look at, I don't know if you go this far back, Fred, but you've got Jeff Fenech. Azuma Nelson was scored a draw 30 years ago, but Fenech won that fight hands down. But at the end of the day, it was a draw. Jeff Horn beating Manny Pacquiao. I felt that Jeff Horn deserved that, but I was in the minority. Teddy Atlas managed to convince the entire world that it was the worst robbery ever, but I thought that Manny Pacquiao fought the worst fight of his championship career that night. Anyway, Jeff Horn got the W, but there's an asterisk on it because so many people thought that Pacquiao won, right? With this, I felt that Kambosos won decisively. It was a magnificent tactical effort on his part. I thought that Lopez performed below par, but that's his problem. It's not Teofimo Lopez's job to get it right for 36 minutes. He needs to get it right in the gap between his last fight, which has been considerable, against Lomachenko way over a year ago, or a year and a half ago. I can't remember the exact date. He's had seismic inactivity, but so has Kambosos. There's no excuses. Kambosos won the fight, and it was a magnificent effort. Full congratulations to him. I love this kind of stuff because, boxing too often just goes in this perfect line of trajectory, but it's not been like that. It's a massive, enormous upset, and I love that kind of stuff. Full congratulations to Kambosos and his team.
Yeah, it's definitely great for Australian boxing and boxing around the world. And what did you kind of make of Teofimo Lopez's dad, Teofimo Lopez Senior, kind of advice he was giving Teo in the corner throughout the rounds?
Well, I noticed that he was telling Lopez that he was winning rounds that, quite frankly, he wasn't winning. I think the entire camp, right, and he's not the first to fall into this trap. If you look at the way that Lopez operated against Lomachenko, injured or not, to hell with that. You know, if you're going to give Lomachenko credit for winning fights with a gimpy shoulder, then don't be saying anything when he loses. Lopez won that fight. He won it legitimately. But the way that he won it was with a perfect professional effort. He was switched on from round 1 to round 12, had his tactics down, boxed when he wanted to box, fought when he had to fight. Absolutely brilliant. Last night, he went out to blow that kid away like, this kid's a nobody. I'm just going to walk right through him. And that proved to be his undoing. I mean, he get dropped at the end of round 1 with a peach of a punch. Then it's like you're back in the corner and, I better switch on now. But it's too late. It's too late to get it together, right? His mindset was off. His preparation just looked to be off. All the things that made him special, the speed, the power, the accuracy, the intensity, it was nowhere. But that doesn't matter because the guy across from him, it's not like Kambosos has had it easy. He's travelled 10,000 miles. He's a 10-1, 13-1 underdog. It's his first super fight. He's got a lot going against him, but he's the one that's prepared better. But that's his job. It's your job as a challenger to prepare like a champion. It's your job when you're a champion to prepare like the challenger. And it's just let him down badly. But the advice in the corner wasn't great. The performance wasn't great, but the performance from the other side, the corner team on the other side, when you get a seismic upset like this, everyone needs a conspiracy theory. There is no conspiracy. Lopez get his ass kicked, and that's just the facts.
That's true right there. Everyone does like a conspiracy theory. I mean, I expect when I go on Twitter after this, everyone have made up their own kind of theories about George Kambosos. He went to MSG to beat Mickey Bay. He went to it was London. I guess there were no fans in the arena. Still went across the pond to London.
Yeah,
Lee Selby.
Yeah, he's been a road warrior, Fred. I mean, if he beat Selby. Selby's loss now looks pretty good because that was probably a touch closer than what you watched last night, right? He's done everything the right way. And listen, Lopez has had a hard time of it. This fight been postponed multiple times, but it's his job to remain switched on. Forget having arguments with Devin Haney, right, down at ringside and who's got the most social media followers and all that shit, right? That's just totally irrelevant. You need to be switched on and prepared. If you take a guy like Kiko Martinez, right? Kiko Martinez, even right through the pandemic, did nothing but train, never out the gym, always had his tail up, so that when an opportunity came along, he was going to be switched on. I mean, he was very unlucky not to get a decision over Zelfa Barrett. Then it was severe case of right place, right time when he fought Kid Galahad the other week. He's world champion. But I don't think that Lopez has had that same kind of mindset. I think there's been too much, I want this deal, that deal, DAZN, Top Rank, re-signed with Bob, and, arguments with Devin Haney. He's been all over the place. But the performance last night looked like he was all over the place.
That's so true. That means I forgot about the Kiko Martinez to Galahad upset. And you've also got I guess it's a little bit disrespectful saying it's an upset. In their eyes, it won't be, but in the public's eyes.
For who?
Well, for George Kambosos, if people saying it,
it's an upset. It's a massive. It's colossal. It's argument. I would say right now, prior to last night, that the biggest upset of the year was Kiko Martinez over Kid Galahad. That was my personal.
No, but in our eyes, it is an upset. But in his eyes, George Kambosos.
Oh no, that whole team. You're absolutely right in that sense. But you need to look at it in the boxing world, right?
Yeah.
In the boxing world, that is a massive sonic upset, right? You go into the rematch, then you're expecting, excuse me, if there is one, anything could happen. But in terms of the boxing world, no one expected that. I mean, I put up a video of Teofimo Lopez dancing around with a Ring Magazine belt to Eye of the Tiger. Great PR for us, right? That's why we appreciated Lopez doing it at the time. People are waking up, giving me a hard time because I put that video up. How many of them do you think picked Kambosos to win that fight? Who do you know that picked Kambosos to win that fight? Nobody did. So, it's a massive upset. But that whole team would have had belief. that they could win that fight. No doubt about it. So you're right there, 100%.
And do you think that you mentioned there a rematch? I know there's probably a rematch clause in the contract, but then a rematch, I guess, look how long it took to make the first fight. Do you think it'll be a bit easier to make the second fight, or do you think that Lopez will move on and George will move on, and then the fight will be down under in Australia?
Okay, in regards to rematches and stuff, there's a bit of karma going on here, because when Lopez beat Lomachenko, Lomachenko's got a massive fan base, right? And all the fans wanted him to go again, but there was no rematch clause, and that was Lomachenko's fault at the time. But how much sympathy now is Lopez going to get asking for a rematch with Kambosos when there's no rematch clause? And here's the thing: the Australian, right, the Aussies love their boxing. They get behind, I mean, even fighters that you wouldn't have classed as elite level, right? Like Danny Green comes to mind. Sorry, Danny, but you weren't elite, mate. Right? Danny Green could sell out like stadiums over there fighting like, an average fighter. Tim Tszyu, who's terrific, I would say that Tim's going to end up being world champion at some point, but even during his rise and at the embryonic stages of his career, don't get me wrong, having Kostya Tszyu as your father helps, but he's selling out stadiums. George Kambosos doesn't need to run it back with Teofimo Lopez to have a huge event in Australia. He owes him nothing, and that's the bottom line. Now, Teofimo Lopez is back with Bob Arum. He's got a contractual commitment. Does Bob Arum, put up the money to take this fight over to Australia, where it would be absolutely enormous? Maybe, but Kambosos has got other options. He can fight, someone in the, IBF top 10 somewhere, like top 15, and still, make a bunch of money. He might just want to go out there and have a couple of fights. He doesn't owe Teofimo Lopez anything. And like I say, Teofimo Lopez will not be getting much sympathy from fight fans because he didn't give Lomachenko a rematch. It's a crippling loss, this, for Lopez. It's a momentum changer. It's a real bad career loss, this, and it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back. We could say, will he move on? Will he move up to 140? He's been talking about fighting Josh Taylor. Good luck with that after the performance you put on last night, because if Josh Taylor was in with that version of Teofimo Lopez, Josh would have wasted him badly, and I'll go on record saying that. Do you want to move up to 140 pounds when you've just lost to a 10-1 or a 13-1 underdog? His ego, will be badly crushed. He'll want Top Rank, I think, to push for the immediate rematch, and I think he'll need to travel for it, and I think he should travel for it. It would be massive in Australia, but it'll be interesting to see what Team Kambosos thinks about that.
Yeah, I'm certain what you're saying about Australian there, but Australians back their fighters. They certainly do. It's kind of like the UK, how UK always gets.
They're even more. It's more than us. Like they get right behind. Australia will have been blown away by that. Kambosos has just announced himself as the #1 boxing franchise. At least until Tim Tszyu kicks the door open. Kambosos is an enormous star over there. His media commitments. I don't think he'll sleep for the next month. He'll have so much to do.
I mean, I went to the Western Boxing Show at Bethnal Green the other day, and Emily Bridges was there, and I asked her about kind of all the Australian fighters. You got Matthew signed Dempsey, McCann, and McLean, I think, the heavyweight, undefeated. They also signed Brock Jarvis, who's a good prospect. And you're right, Emily Bridges, who's a quite big star in her own right, in a way. And
absolutely.
And you've also got Tim Tszyu as well, Michael Zaraffa, I guess. And now you've got Blue and George Kambosos. Australian boxing is you can put them all. Do you know who George Kambosos is signed to? Is it? I don't think it's Matchroom, is it? They probably,
no, he's a free agent, as I understand it.
That's a good position to be in then.
It is, and the kid deserves it. You could see the amount of work that went into that performance last night, flooring him in the first rounds, outboxing him through the middle rounds, getting dropped, and he was hurt there. He was hurt for a couple of not hurt, but definitely buzzed for a certain amount of time, and then come back. That was the 10th, and then he came back and easily won the 11th. Claret pouring out his face, and then obviously Teo was cut as well. But you could see the warrior effort. See, to Lopez, that was a fight that was in his way. It was just a fight that he had to get done and dusted. To Kambosos, that was a super fight to him.
You're right. He did put a lot of work in. I mean, you just see on his Instagram. I guess everyone can load anything on their Instagram, but if you go back down in time, he's been working all the time in the gym. Where do you see? I know you just spoken about where you think Teofimo Lopez goes. You got Devin Haney and Jojo Diaz in a couple of weeks. Do you think George will be ringside for that one?
It'll depend on what he's got going on at home. I mean, he'll have been away from home for a long time, and I think he'll have a rest. Not 100%. I don't know if he'll definitely be ringside. He'll be watching it, but I don't know if he'll travel again.
Do you think? I think one of the reasons last night is kind of why you want to make the super fights or the massive fights happen now rather than waiting a few fights, because anything can happen. Do you think Devin Haney can be next to George Kambosos? Do you think that fight will be next, or do you think there'll be another few fights in between?
Well, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Jojo Diaz. You know, he's in that fight, even though Devin is the favourite. No, I mean, if I'm Kambosos' brain trust, you maximise your status as champion. I think he will either go straight in with Lopez again, depending on the offer that he gets, or then he can just pick and choose what he's going to do. Like I say, he could fight someone, you know, bottom end of the IBF or whoever now. He holds a multitude of belts. He could fight anyone in Australia, make himself millions of dollars, right? Sell out a stadium easy. He can do what he wants. I don't think it's not smart. I mean, we've seen it in the past, into immediate unifications. It's happened in pretty much every division at some point. But the way he's won that, the effort that he's put in, his reputation now, I think he'll maximize his status as a champion and, pick a couple of title defenses if the rematch with Lopez doesn't happen straight away.
I mean, rightfully so. I mean, the only problem you've got with Ring Magazine is how long is it going to take you guys to send that belt over to Australia?
Well, I was going through my head there. We might make the belt for him and get him to pay the shipping. I don't know. I just full congratulations to the team. It's wonderful when you see that kind of thing. It just makes boxing so exciting, because boxing sometimes, like I say, just goes with the norm. Everyone. I didn't stay up to watch that. I didn't think it was going to be worth watching, and instead I came down and seen that, and I'm still charged from it. It was just magnificent to see, and I couldn't be happier for Kambosos and his team. And listen, I wish Theo the best going forward. There's lessons to be learned there. He made some big mistakes. He wasn't switched on enough. You're looking miles past this kid. Everyone was, right? But everyone's career isn't on the line. It's Lopez's career. He'll never do it again. He'll never do it again. And that's the major lesson to be learned. Don't take anyone for granted, because I honestly do not know. In fact, I think I've seen one person on Twitter say that they fancied Kambosos, but that's probably a Lopez hater. And unless you can show me a betting slip for $1,000, I don't care if you put a fiver on it. I don't care if you put a tenner on the upset. Show me a betting slip where you've put you've put everything on the line for Kambosos to win that fight. I'll challenge anyone to do that. So unless it's Team Kambosos, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you did bet on George, you definitely would have made some money. Just one fight I want to touch on before I do let you go, which the Ring Magazine will be. Actually, I don't think it will be involved in, actually, because Canelo Alvarez is going up a few weight classes to cruiserweight. Been a bit of confusion recently. Obviously, he wants to fight Makabu. Then I think Don King's come out. I saw on Michael Benson's Twitter. Don King's come out and saying that Makabu is a mandatory, and then hopefully they'll get that made in May. What are your kind of thoughts on this?
I would rather Canelo had went to light heavy, faced Beterbiev, Bivol, etc. But I think he will. I think that this is if the Makabu fight comes off, if Makabu beats his mandatory, then and that fight comes off, I think it's a one-stop shop. Canelo's not going to stay at cruiserweight. Bridgerweight, he'll have no interest, I wouldn't imagine. But then again, I didn't think he'd have much interest in cruiserweight, Fred, being honest with you. I like the fight. Makabu's took a lot of heat, as if the guy's useless, but he's not. He's a quality operator who's had good wins. He holds significant natural size advantage over Canelo. I like the fight, but I think Canelo wins it. I think what you'll see, though, is that he'll not be able to fight like Canelo. Once you start going up through the weights this quickly, I think he'll need to maybe move a bit more, be a bit more circumspect with his offense. But I think he's got the skill, the ability, the know-how, the experience, the ring craft, everything on his side. So I think he'll win the fight.
I mean, of course, when a big move like that, we do always receive a tiny little bit of stick. I saw people saying that he's kind of picked the weakest of the champions. So he's got Lawrence Okoli, Beterbiev.
Yeah.
What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, it's double-edged. I mean,
Canelo is in WBC, isn't he? And it was at a WBC convention, and he's a WBC champion. So you can kind of see that side of it.
Yeah, plus the fact that the WBC is the first governing body to talk about dropping the weight limit down to 190, which also helped Canelo. Nothing official from any of the other governing bodies if they're going to follow suit. So there's a couple of things fell into Canelo's favor, but let's not act like Canelo being the A side and calling the shots is anything new. Floyd done it, Sugar Ray Leonard done it, Muhammad Ali done it. You're talking about the flagship star in boxing. He'll just do what he wants. It's nothing we've not seen before. So would he have fought Lawrence Okolie? No. Bradis? No. But do I blame him for doing this? No, I don't. I think it's still audacious. He's not picking a fight that's easy or comes without challenges. And I think that Makabu is a good operator, and I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, certainly it does. Cruiserweight, obviously, went up to lightweight to beat Kovalev, and after that, he came back down. Now he's going way up to cruiserweight. It's quite impressive. But yeah, I'll let you go and get on the rest of the day, and you can go see those comments to that Twitter video you put out of TFE and Lopez.
I've already seen it. I've already seen it. No problem. Listen, great seeing you, Fred.
You going to take that video down or just leave it up?
I've done worse than that. I left my Canelo Caleb Plant scoring up. Nothing phases me. A bunch of Barney from Boston giving me a hard time doesn't faze me. I don't care what people say on Twitter. Easy work.
Okay, that's all right then. All right, Tom, we'll catch up soon then, mate. I'll put your Twitter.
Good seeing you, mate.
But thanks for your time.
Good seeing you, mate. Take care.